Hey guys, we're here again on the next UysFaber podcast. Andrew is bailed out on us because he has a lot of work to do, but we're here today with Sarah,
Hello.
and Adam. I think this is his first appearance. He does all our music stuff on,
Yeah.
and Dove.
Hi, how's it going out there?
Keep it down, Dove. Keep it short. I'm sorry, but So we're here today, and we're going to be talking about.
Our favorite crime stories.
Thank you. Picking up, kind of blanked out there. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I think we're sort of trying to step away from all the gushing about Sherlock we did on the last podcast, but sort of keep the crime theme. So we're going to try and talk a bit less about Sherlock and more about other stories.
It's funny because after I heard that podcast, I'm like, I guess I should come on and talk about Sherlock, like the two things I know about it. But whatever. So yeah, crime. So Sarah, what's your favorite crime story? I'm trying to put you on the spot because I was
No.
One person has to usually pick this up. So pressure.
Oh God, what do I do? What do I say? So I sort of have a hard time picking favorites a lot of the time. I haven't actually watched or read that many things aside from Sherlock, which is the major thing on my brain. But Andrew recently has lent me all the Castle episodes. Which
Nathan Fillion is a charmer.
Nathan Fillion is awesome. Because I've been meaning to try that because Nathan Fillion, But it's a series that I'm very, very much enjoying. Like, the crime stuff is fun, but the relationship is fun. There's geeky things in there, like. I guess honestly, more of my comments are about the characters than the actual crime solving. Just because I so much enjoy the dynamics between them, like Castle and his family. And I'm sort of worried about when I first started this, between Castle and Beckett. It's obvious that that's the main romantic interest sort of thing. And is this going to be too stereotypical or just like for no good reason the girl falls for the guy? But I think they sort of develop the relationship really well, and I really enjoy that.
It's funny because every time when we were talking about like crime stories, I kept trying to think of what technically is, because like every time I think of it, I'm always trying to think like it's always crime and it's kind of like tied into something else. Like the last like big one I can think of was Inception, because I guess that is when you think about
That's
it.
That's a crime.
It is.
Well, it's interesting to think of where the crime genre generally came from. I mean, if you look especially at comics and pulp, where a lot of the mainstream movie archetypes we have now, that's where they come from. Crime came from the urban development in the the early 19th century, when people were coming to America and having different cultures, different poor cultures pouring in. There started to be urban crime. And that was, the horrors weren't sort of the old school Christian horrors or the vampire idea. That he was literally someone coming into your culture and breaking your rules.
I guess that makes sense, because I think of like what was the big one? There was like the Public Enemies, or what was that? Is that the one where they're like hunting John Dillinger or with,
Public Enemies.
Yeah.
It's interesting because they captured John Dillinger in the theater of him seeing a movie called Public Enemies.
Yeah.
So it was actually the urban criminal wanting to watch a movie about criminals, and then of course being taken down.
But like, what was another one I was thinking of that was like I think it was Heat that I remember. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Really? This one that was another great crime movie. It was like, but at the same time, like I remember I was watching they were trying to compare like something to it, like what it was today, and the closest thing they said was The Dark Knight, and I'm just like, I guess that kind of makes sense, because when you think about Dark Knight, it's like I think that was more relatable as a crime movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Or that just had Batman and Joker.
Even Batman in general, because obviously he came from Detective Comics and everything, and the whole thing came from the
urban crime.
Yeah, I don't think I'd call Batman and Robin like with Arnold Schwarzenegger and George Clooney.
No.
I do get what you're saying. Yeah.
There's a lot of words we can use to describe that, but they're not.
But no, like I kind of like how you I guess that's the whole thing they're going with. They're grounding it. So I guess and that when you break Batman down, it's essentially what it is. It's just a nice crime story.
And like almost all crime stories, I haven't seen Castle, so you can correct me, but at least the origin of the crime story always has to do with the problem in the urban city of one cultural class fighting the other. So, for example, The Dark Knight, Batman is the rich playboy who is dealing with, the poorer Gotham City who's dealing with gang violence and all that sort of thing. So, every sort of crime story sort of goes through that.
I don't know, like, it's an interesting point. At least with Castle, there are a lot of different classes involved, right? You get gang related things, and that's actually, it's related to one of the threads through the series that I'm not going to actually spoil more than that. But, you have things with, like, millionaires and stuff. Like faking deaths or like cheating and all this sort of things. Like sometimes, like often even then it's still between classes like millionaires and other people, or at least millionaires conflicting with the lower class cops, but it's also millionaires conflicting with themselves, or just people who you think are regular everyday people and you find out no, actually they're getting involved in all this other things. But no, I guess I would agree that a lot of the time there's some kind of class conflict in there.
Right, for sure.
Adam, have you seen? I definitely told you about this. It's called Standard, the movie.
No.
I'm only bringing this, pointing you out because it takes place in South Africa. If Ace was here, he'd totally be on the ball about this. He knows, but it's that was another really good one. I remember me and Ace had definitely talked about it before, but it's about this. It's based on a true story too. It's about the South African cop who like got so fed up with apartheid and there's this whole idea that if you're white you can do anything. So he decided to start robbing banks. So and he was like literally the traditional cop. He's the guy or the traditional bank robber. He started dressing up and like in like hilarious outfits and exaggerated ones.
I know, I do remember this now. I remember you telling me about it.
And
I think it was slightly based off a true story.
No, it's based. The guy's a real guy,
yeah.
and it's very badass, man. Like, Tom Jane plays it too. And
oh wow,
he's the effing man.
Because it's interesting that you say that because I've studied Jesse James and sort of the archetypal American bank robber in cowboy times. And he was, since the South lost the Civil War, he was, okay, if the North is going to exploit us now and I can't fight a war anymore, I'm going to be a criminal. Yeah. So it's interesting just to talk about, like, we look at something like Castle, we'll hear the other examples of our favorite crime stories, but the real question is, I think it's really the examination of why the criminal is breaking this law and maybe what it teaches us about these laws in general.
It was definitely I really recommend that. It was a really good movie, Standard. I guess it's kind of the same as I'm trying to think have you ever seen Young Guns? I guess that's the best Jesse James movie.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
actually no. Have you seen The Assassination of Jesse James? Really good movie.
Yeah,
very good.
Is it slow though? It seems
it's very slow. It's not as slow as I guess There Will Be Blood, because that was kind of a little grueling for me to watch.
That was a little slow.
It was very slow.
That seemed to me like such obvious Oscar bait for me though.
I know.
Let's make a movie that won an Oscar and like have every sort of stereotypical aspect to it.
I love the director. I want to say Paul Anderson or something. Paul Thomas. I'm trying to think what else he's done. He did Punch Drunk Love. Another great crime movie. No, he did this
Adam
other
Sandler
one called.
Is convincing.
He did this. Yeah, that's actually I think one of the best Adam Sandler movies that like no one's seen.
There's not a lot.
Because he's insane. Okay, there's two that everyone in Toronto I think has to have seen. I'm sorry, this is so far away from crime, but there's Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. I think everyone has had to seen that. I guess you're not from Toronto. So
not originally. I was gonna say the new. Sorry to get off topic. The one that Toronto movie now is going to be Scott Pilgrim. I mean, that's ingrained in our city.
Hands down.
Yeah. All right. So,
I'm wheeling this back into Sarah. I got your signal. What are we talking about? But he did this one called Hard 8, or I think it was released as Sydney. It was called Sydney because that was the main character's name. But I think in America it was called Hard 8, and it has it's literally one of the books where one of the movies where if you watch it, it's like literally the precursor to 100 Bullets, because and as well as even admitted, said it's definitely inspired. It's one of those really hard pulp movies. It's about it's kind of I guess it's kind of a crime one. Well, it definitely has that nice noir feel to it. It's basically about this guy talking about how to con out the casino system.
Cool.
And he takes a guy under his wing, and it's really good. Sam, I'm trying to think.
But it's not campy like in Ocean's 11.
No, it's okay. Which first Ocean's 11 though.
Oh, I love it, but it's admittedly campy.
Oh yeah, and then everything after that was just what other famous people can we throw in this movie? Yeah. And Milk the Sacred Cow, but that's why I've only seen the first one. I don't care for anything after that. Although Steven Soderbergh has done some really good movies.
Of course.
And then he's done some other cop-outs where it's just hey, look at all my famous friends and stuff.
Right. Well, it's a popcorn movie. Right?
Exactly, I guess. But that's another movie I recommend. Hard 8, check that one out. I'm just trying to think of Samuel Jackson's in it, but he's in everything, so I guess whatever. But yeah, no, that was definitely a good one. Has anyone seen Drive?
No, not yet.
Oh my God, you guys got to get on the ball, man.
I know. I was given 2 days to
This you should just change the topic of a bunch of guys listening to movies that DK likes. but that,
Brought to you by Catnip.
Oh, whoops! But okay, Drive was I'm slowly like falling in love with that director. It's Nicholas Swen. Have you guys ever heard of Bronson?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One for 8 or whatever we're at.
Yeah.
Bronson, like he did that as well. But the thing about Drive was, you guys know, you've heard of it. You've seen this.
Yeah, of course. Gosling, right?
I get the gist of it. It seems like it had everyone who's doing really good on TV right now. Like
that's actually, I guess that's true.
Like they had all these great guys from Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad, and
hey, Ron Perlman has always been good, and who's Breaking Bad? What's his name again? Bryan Cranston. Yeah, Hal from Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, that's what I call him.
And Jim Gordon from Batman Year One, the animated version.
I think he'll be even if they do it, he'd make a good live action Jim Gordon.
Oh, for sure. Have you seen the? It is crime.
That is crime.
That is good. Batman Year One. It's total crime. It's Cranston's the man. Is Jim Gordon.
Because I like that just because it felt like it was just as much Jim Gordon Year One.
No, of course.
Yeah, but Drive. The reason why I liked it so much was because it was. The plot, like even we went to go see it in theaters, and I had this one buddy who's really picky about it. His name's Aiden Ballo. You can look him up. Sorry, name drop. But but I'm like, okay, I want to see either Drive or 50-50, and I showed him both the trailers.
Right.
And he's like, I'm not seeing that Fast and the Furious shit. Like, and it's true. Like the thing is, they kind of sold it like that, and there's actually someone actually sued them because he's just like the trailer sold him like on a different movie and stuff.
Oh. Wow.
And the thing is, the plot was like when you really break down the plot, it's essentially like the Transporter or any sort of generic action movie. And it really is. It could have because originally, okay, the director was Nicholas Swen.
Right.
He did Bronson. And the star was Ryan Gosling. Originally, it was supposed to be Neil Marshall, who did the Descent and like Doomsday. If you have Dog Soldiers, if you've seen that.
Oh yeah, a while ago.
Those like English action movies, and they were gonna get Hugh Jackman to star in it.
Right.
And I'm like, if that was the case, that would have just been the Transporter.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like the director has this really good like European style about things. Like I don't like comparing him to other directors or saying this guy looks like this guy, but he has a very Kubrick-esque kind of on it, like because the thing is like it's essentially that story, but he was so stylized with it, and like he uses a lot of like really cheesy pop music,
right?
But at the same time, it's playing over Ryan Gosling curb stomping some guy in the elevator, so it's just like the mix of ultra violence and like it's just very stylized. I really enjoy.
Actually, you bring up a good point about crime in general. Just like you talk about Driver, Fast and Furious. Yeah. Are all these racing movies, even though they're the racers, so it's a stylized sports movie, they're all criminals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, when you think like,
why is your favorite crime movie Tokyo Drift? Like,
no, I have not yet had that pleasure.
But you can kind of like differentiate between like the angles they're going to go at. So like when you think of a movie like Gone in 60 Seconds, which is very obviously car based, but the whole plot is they're stealing all these cars. Yeah, I know it was a great movie. Yeah. And the one guy, he steals one car and it's got the drugs in it, so it's kind of like comes back to Drive as the guy stole from the mob and everything.
What's your favorite crime movie? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, okay, my favorite crime story is I was going to be lame and plug my music, but was going to be Queenstrike's Operation Mindcrime.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, basically, this is kind of going into like Inception, like psychological crime.
Good story.
And basically, it goes along the lines of this heroin addict who's very kind of angry about a lot of problems that you hear the Occupy Wall Street movement kind of talking about with corporate lobbyists running America, and nobody's media's totally run by all this money and everything, and basically he gets a hold of this guy called Dr. X, and his whole thing is okay, I'm gonna help you out. You're gonna
didn't Dio voice him in the?
No, it was some other guy.
Because I know they made a part 2 where Dio actually Ronnie James Dio.
He might have. I mean, I really
have you written a blog about this yet? Like you should get on this.
Well, I mean it's coming up. I generally have themes, so right now I'm doing like more comeback albums. So I did Atheist today.
Oh yeah.
He's sort of what happens is he kind of takes advantage of this guy's heroin addiction by turning him into a sort of mindless super soldier that whenever he says Operation Mindcrime, the guy clicks, turns off, and he kills all these politicians.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
very
it's like possible. I always imagine, because they never really give you like a good description of the scenery of that story.
Yeah.
So I always kind of imagine like Manchurian Candidate in more of like a weird like crappy like pseudo cyberpunk future.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I'm sorry,
very give
another
off-
plug for hard.
Yeah.
It does
My
give off
hardware
that
too.
kind of
No,
vibe.
thank you.
And then so then there's sort of this prostitute nun, which is a giant conundrum in
Mary
itself.
Magdalene.
That he
Oh,
falls.
is that I haven't read the Bible. I'm sorry.
that he falls in love with, and they're kind of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this, and then her and the priest who she kind of took her under her wing, he finds them dead, and he doesn't know if it was actually him who killed them. Or was it Professor X who, because
Professor X.
That's his name. Or not Professor X, sorry, Dr. X.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, I thought it was Charles Xavier. But for a band that's had like a lot of crap records, that was a nice.
Oh yeah, well I mean I think that was really their last super gem.
That was quite their magnum opus.
Yeah, because after that I think it was Empire, and so they had Silent Lucidity on that, and then it's just been Nickelback ever since. So yeah,
God bless him.
there's not much to be said about post '90s Queensrÿche at all.
I'm trying to think what other current stories we can tackle. Sarah, do you have anything you want to name drop, or are you just gonna keep telling us to get back on topic?
Well, I was sort of gonna go around to people because there's something else I could mention that's like actually a novel for. Okay, fine. There's Anissa, our production division, actually introduced me to a young adult novel called "I Am Not a Serial Killer" by Dan Wells.
I heard
And
of that.
it's really good because it's from the point of view of a teenager who's basically like a sociopath. He doesn't really connect on an emotional level. He's strange. He's really interested in serial killers, that kind of thing. And a serial killer shows up in his town. So, of course, he's really interested in this.
Wow.
And also, this is not a spoiler because it's on the back of the book. It's a fantasy novel. The serial killer is actually a demon.
Wow, of
But,
course.
like, just the demon doesn't show up for a while. And I found myself, like, completely forgetting that there was anything supernatural in this and just really, really enjoying it for, like, how they really do a good job of portraying the main character, the sociopath, and like his just looking for the serial killer. And I think honestly it would have worked just as well. It's really good as it is, but it would have worked really well even without the supernatural element at all.
Yeah, with the supernatural thing, it kind of reminds me of Fight Night.
Or supernatural.
Okay, I should stop using that word.
Sarah, can I comic drop for you? If you're really into just like the inner minds and like the real interpretation, Scott Snyder just did a Detective Comics run with actually bringing back Jim Gordon's son, who Jim Gordon's the greatest cop of Gotham City.
Yeah, what's his son been up to?
So his son, he brought him back, and he had sociopathic tendencies.
Oh,
so he has to deal with that, and it's Jim Gordon. So it's not like the Joker or these fake urban crime guys. It's his son who just has a mental. I guess a mental deflection. I don't know the terminology well enough, but so that's just a comic drop for you.
But yeah, I think
the Black Mirror.
The book does a really good job of sort of getting inside his head and like seeing the way he thinks and why and everything, and like we feel sympathetic to him even though he's also still kind of scary and strange.
For sure.
And like he's scared of himself sometimes.
I mean, is he portrayed as having a mental issue, or
well, he's fully aware that he's a sociopath, basically. Right. So we're sort of aware of this from the beginning, and we sort of see how he tries to deal with that with himself. He makes rules for himself, how it affects sort of his relationship with other people.
Nice.
And everything.
Have you ever read Dexter or Darkly Judy Dexter?
No, I haven't.
Because that's what I was going to say. It sounds a lot like that, where he has this whole like Bible that he lives by on how he serial kills people. Or you could just watch the TV show.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I like to say to myself that.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're older, don't let the sort of young adult thing scare you off, because it's from the point of view of a teenager. Like, it's really, really well done. I think it's really interesting, and I learned things about sociopaths and serial killers too. I found it fascinating. So.
All the things.
Nice light reading it. Yeah,
it was awesome. So,
cool.
Dove, how about you?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I should say I didn't get a chance to hear your Sherlock conversation, and I do kind of want to see Castle, but I'm on a TV strike until they bring Community back.
That's true. That's a good show to stick with.
So that's like I'm only watching Daily Show and Colbert now.
Nice.
But I also mentioned that because like the reason Community was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because when NBC canceled Law and Order, my favorite sort of crime crime genre show. I was just like, how can you do that? That's just like, that is television for me. Law and Order.
That was a really good sway back to the topic because, like, as soon as you mentioned
I
Community, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to talk about this.
I know stuff.
Yeah.
I know stuff. I know stuff. Right. So
How long
Law
has
and
it been on for? It was on for ages.
It was on for as long as they could. It's like they just had a rotating cast, and they, for whatever reason, some genius / a very, very stupid NBC executive board.
I'm going to bleep that over so it sounds like you swear it a bunch, but okay.
There you go.
Unnecessary censorship.
Some bleep
Yeah.
NBC executives. So they canceled it to try this Law and Order Los Angeles, but it had the predominant positive role model of the African American.
How many
lieutenant.
spin-offs are there? There's the regular, there's Special Victims Unit.
Criminal Intent.
Criminal
They
Intent.
tried one called Trial by Jury, which I'll get into for a sec, which is more about the lawyer side than the crime side.
UK.
UK, I just
UK.
remember that because it has
UK.
Jamie Bomber from.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't know his call sign.
For sure. And then they had Law and Order Los Angeles for a year, which didn't make it. Which it was really upsetting because even though Law and Order, you can have a really amazing episode, then a really terrible episode the next week. It was still so great that you could just really follow that formula, and they could just talk about issues of crime and law in a way that was just a really nice expression. And Sam Waterston, who played Jack McCoy, who was the head lawyer, he was just really good at showing you the complexities to what happens in the judicial system, but at the same time, like, it's always about, look, no matter what the situation, you have to get the criminal.
Which one's is that Christopher Maloney or
Which one?
Sam Waterston?
Sam Waterston plays Jack McCoy, who's the head. He's initially the assistant district attorney, and then he becomes the district attorney in New York City.
The only one whose career I really follow is Ice-T.
Ice-T's in Special Victims. He's good.
He's really not, but
The problem with Special Victims is they have, like, it's a bigger cast. So on the classic Law and Order, you always follow two detectives and their Lieutenant Van Buren, who was the first real strong African American female lead on a show in Law and Order. And then after they sort of get their primary suspect, they hand it over to the lawyers, who's always Sam Waterston, and then whoever his boss was, and then a nice female assistant who once in a while he'd have a relationship with, but they were never allowed to talk about because that's the beauty. And no, it was really just.
So it was just the main one canceled,
the main was canceled. I think Criminal Intent is over. L.A. didn't make it. None of the other ones really made it.
Yeah.
The British version might still be on, but that's BBC.
Is it BBC?
Right?
I don't know.
It's not the American networks.
Really? They were able to give it over to
For
BBC?
Sure. But just in general for crime, I was going to say this because while Law and Order is my favorite show about cops and robbers, about the criminal, my favorite real crime story, and you guys can tell me if it's not really a crime story, I'm more than up for that, is 12 Angry Men. It's the classic. 12 Angry Men is the classic story of there's this criminal trial, and you're in this 1930s, 1940s jury room with these 12 men, and 11 of them are going to just convict this kid. He's some kind of minority, you don't know, and this one guy is able to change all their minds. So you never meet the criminal.
How old is this?
Oh, it's old.
Yeah?
It's Henry Fonda is.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
So there you go. They keep trying to update him because it's 12 white guys.
Yeah.
They try to update it, which is good for them, but it always adds a little more connotation.
It's funny because when you said 12 Angry Men, I immediately jumped to Grumpy Old Men.
Oh, there you
With
go.
Walter Matthau and the old guy. And
There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I imagine they're two very different things.
a little bit. But anyway, so it's crime. You don't really meet the criminals. You're just in that jury room. They never tell you any of their names until the very end, and it's really all about the prejudice that goes into the jury room, how you're able to manipulate people into thinking what you want them to think. And really then eventually it comes down to sort of like Lost is this idea of the other. And in all these crimes, if it's all about these urban culture clashes, it's all about, the other person is trying to affect us. It ends up that this guy who's trying to get this kid convicted, he has this entire racial spat where he says all the horrible things you can ever say without actually saying what ethnicity he gets from. Well, he says he's like one of them. So in order to really convince people, Henry Fonda, after he says it once, they're talking about it. So Henry Fonda says, like, why do you believe her testimony? Like, she's one of them too, isn't she? And they use that terminology to sort of say Henry Fonda's he's trying to do it to save this kid's life, but he's also trying to say, like, all right, I want to win this, and I'm going to convince everyone this guy's racist. sort of bring them over to my side.
I was just bring back to when you said BBC. I was just totally got reminded of another great show. Have you ever heard of Luther?
Oh, I haven't seen it, but
Luther with Idris Elba,
right.
The handsome Idris Elba. he played Heimdall in Thor.
Oh yeah.
No,
I mean, look. The worst thing is I've yet to see The Wire, which I know would dominate.
I was about to say I was
There
going
we
to try
go.
and throw that out somewhere.
I was gonna, how
because that's very good with sort of ethnic and sort of crime.
Okay.
I guess we're kind of past. Well, at least not me and Adam are. We're kind of over that generation of because we guess we were too young when it came back. Like I have a season 1 that I still need to sit through.
I've seen bits of I know what The Wire is generally about. I can't say I know the exact
there's
plot, but
but there's some monster actors on there. Idris Elba's on there.
Yeah.
The other, the Dominic West, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. Terrible in Punisher Warzone as Jigsaw, but and also I'm trying to think of the other guys. Like a guy who played Omar, he has the scar in his face.
Yeah.
That biology teacher.
Yes,
from Community.
Bring Community back, people.
They're definitely bringing it back. It's definitely It's there's no way too many people like it. I don't.
But how can I watch television if that's not on it? You know what I mean? How can I? Sorry, I'm digressing.
Well, I think the thing with that is the crime genre is so.
I think it's a crime that they can't. Can't continue.
But the crime genre is somewhat of an ambiguous genre. You can think it can take place in really any setting. I was watching Blade Runner last night, and you think that whole sci-fi fantasy you're talking about, it can fit anywhere.
I like any of my crime to be a little crossover, or any of my genres really. I like one of my favorite westerns would probably be Firefly or something. It takes place in space.
Bro, one of my favorite blank is Firefly.
Really. Take my land. Sorry.
Actually, another really good western. Again, not really quite a western, but have you read Preacher by Garth Ennis?
Not yet. No.
Stephen King actually, I'm pretty sure said that was the greatest western he's ever read.
Oh,
which is kind of true. It's
he says about Why the Last Man. Not about western, but about
he's quite a good hype man to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's Luther. Check that out. That's Idris Elba.
I think I watched one episode. I don't remember it that well, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. But I wasn't finding the main character that sympathetic.
Really?
I could be not remembering it really well, but it's I didn't like him that much.
Well,
and I found some could use more common sense, or actually you actually are being kind of a jerk here.
Oh no,
I mean, I guess that's just not my type of character, really. But, that's me, when we're talking about crime, talking more about the people than the actual...
I have a soft spot for big, angry black men.
So, did you have...
Well, I'm just curious, how much time do we have left?
No, go ahead, whatever.
I'd say wrap it up in 5 or 10 minutes.
All right, so let's just talk about The Godfather. If we're going to talk about the crime genre... we got to talk about The Godfather.
This is such a Philistine circle. It's just of random things that we're
missing
on the big ones.
Well, we sort of talked about crime being it's about the urban population generally, and then it branches off. But it's generally about the urban population, about sort of rich versus poor, black versus white, all these kind of things. I think Godfather. I mean, it's before our time. It's probably it doesn't need us to push it.
Coppola, right? He directed that.
Coppola directed it. Mario Puzo wrote the first script.
Mario Puzo also wrote the first script for Superman?
Superman, yeah. They threw it out. It's great.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he actually had...
If we can have an all-Superman podcast, it would get crazy.
That's entirely possible.
There we go.
At some point.
Just let me know.
But yeah, I guess The Godfather is...
Right. Well, The Godfather is the ultimate one because he's ultimately the worst gangster ever, the Godfather, and especially in Godfather Part 2. He does these terrible things, but he's so sympathetic, right? That's what we talked about,
Yeah.
They come, the first part of The Godfather, have you guys seen it? Or it's just part of the lexicon?
Oh, no, I've seen it. Have you guys seen it?
I actually haven't.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Job.
I'm that terrible as well, yeah.
Don't worry.
Actually, no, Adam, I can give a pass. He's been MIA for a while and still doesn't know how Lost or Battlestar Galactica ends.
Oh, there you go.
I've got a long list of TV
Lost, they're in Candyland. That's
No! They were dead. The airplane just crashed.
So Godfather.
Well, so The Godfather is about this Italian-American family. You follow this guy, and, he's surrounded by these gangsters, and he decides he's going to be the head gangster. It's the only way he feels he can protect his family. And along the lines, you have Marlon Brando, who plays the head Godfather. Yeah. So The Godfather. And the first movie is all about him being attacked, and the sons all needing to sort of band together to decide what they want to do. So you have the really violent.
You have like the hair who's I'm not even thinking of his name right now. It's Sonny, right?
Huh?
Sonny. That was his name in the movie. I'm just trying to think. It was
Right.
like,
He's from Las Vegas when that was on.
I'm trying to think. Oh,
Cox.
James Caan.
James Caan.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah.
Gotta believe that, Cox.
Dude, James Caan.
Right, so he was the angry one, and the great thing about this crime movie is it's all about how these characters die.
Yeah.
So the angry guy gets shot like a billion times in this shootout.
They make fun of it a lot.
Yeah.
It's like when he's on staple.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then he has sort of the father, who's actually this very peaceful guy, even though he kills people, but it's all about protecting his family, being very calm to his enemies. He just sort of has a heart attack and dies playing with his grandson. It's this beautiful, really quiet moment. Yeah. And then
the middle child,
you broke my heart.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Fredo.
Yeah.
Fredo.
He doesn't want. He backs up. He doesn't want it. So I guess the young.
Well, no, he's the one that no one takes seriously.
Yeah.
And then he sort of has the biggest death he can.
And so then.
Yeah,
Al Pacino has to come take it.
Well, no, but Al Pacino he's this war hero. He obeys the law. Yeah. He gets a Christian white girlfriend, and he really doesn't want this, but because of this crime, because of this anger, he actually does all these terrible things going on.
And then he becomes Scarface.
Exactly.
I just wanted to interject something. Anissa from production. The Godfather is based on a novel by Mario Puzo.
We've published that.
Published in 1969. That was it. I work in a bookstore.
There we go.
She just disappeared into the background. Right. Yeah. Never saw her again.
For sure.
But I'm trying to think. I feel like we're missing out on another.
Well, I think we got The Godfather. So that's
because I was
confused guys. Come on.
And Martin Scorsese. And I'm trying to think of what was a good
Scorsese.
Yeah. What
He's shipping up to Boston. The Departed.
Departed.
Yeah,
I mean, there's The Departed and Taxi Driver, right?
I love Taxi Driver. Right. I like that a lot more.
But is the Taxi Driver, is he a criminal?
I think it's just about some guy.
It's sort of like a vigilante story, isn't it? Really.
I guess I'd say it's more of a vigilante, but I definitely love Taxi Driver
for sure. And The Departed is kind of the ultimate it's about cops and robbers, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's about reversed. It's about who cares because they're just two groups of people trying to kill each other.
I want to see the original. Infernal Affairs, the Korean one?
Yeah, for sure.
Apparently that's also really good. There's 3 of them too, so I think they're trying to make that same with Departed. I don't know.
For sure. So I mean, we got The Godfather, and so we're good people.
Well, so DK, do you have a favorite crime story? Because
I just name dropped a ton. I don't
know.
Alright, well, I'm just trying to think of what my favorite. I don't know, Good Burger. When
I had to sit and make a list. Okay, what crime stories do I actually know?
Yeah.
But then again, then when you start making that list, you're like, what really quantifies as a definitive crime story?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what I was meaning. It's so ambiguous. You don't know.
Yeah.
Do you really count
you
it
get
as a crime
lots
story,
of different angles. Because I mean, I'd sort of count 12 Angry Men, and obviously it's an old classic and everything. And then there's something like Leverage, where right, there are people con men who are doing illegal things, but they're also good guys.
Right? I never watched it, but
it's really good. Yeah? You should definitely try it. And then there's the formulaic things like CSI, and frankly Castle is still in that same formula, right? That was one of the things that I was thinking of going
again
into,
when you go with crime, there's different aspects. You can be the detective or the criminal.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of a crime-solving series like CSI or Castle, or in a way detective-type thing like House, you have basically a formula, right? There's something wrong, or there's a crime, or whatever. You have to figure it out. If the people bring in the first person, they're not going to solve it. It's not going to be over, right? Because they have 40 minutes or whatever to fill. So I sort of find shows can work well within that and get creative, but it's still always okay, either this person isn't it, or they will go through a lot of effort and find out more evidence and make a lot of mistakes and then find out, oh, actually he is it, right? But you can sort of judge who the actual culprit is by how much time there is left on the clock.
My favorite thing is that I watched only one episode of Hawaii Five-O. And they had... it's very fun. It's very cool. It was one episode, and they had Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules on the episode. and anyways, he's their first suspect, but not it. But I'm like, all right, wait. Kevin Sorbo's the only one here who's kind of famous. Yeah. He has to be it. Like, and you watch Law and Order, like they have Chevy Chase on for one, and Robin Williams on for a guest.
Dude, everyone's been on Law and Order.
No, exactly. But it's like, but it's never not going to be the famous guy who does it, because the famous guy wants to play the criminal.
Yeah, hey, famous person, come in for like 2 minutes to be like a red herring or something.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
bye. No.
Sin City. There's a crime
Oh,
story.
Sin City.
Yeah, that was one that was just.
That's intense.
I don't know exactly what. It's just all like a crime. I guess it is. Like.
I have a different opinion of Frank Miller that. I found Sin City. He's almost trying to bastardize the crime story, right? That it's about the violence, not about the procedure, right? That it's these groups of people who are going to kill each other, and it doesn't matter what conventions and roles they play.
Maybe I'm just a simpleton. I kind of just like.
No. Like it's cool.
What I liked about it, but I guess
it's cool.
It's very pulpy. It's very noir. It's very. That's what I liked about it.
It looked cool.
I guess that is nothing. I love his high contrast style. So
the Spirit could have been a little better.
Oh my god, The Spirit! I think I'm the only person that tolerated that movie.
No, I tolerated it. I loved when the sword became red when it went through him.
I'd say I liked it, but it's not for the right reasons.
There you go.
It's too bad, because I like his visual style. Like I kind of wish he'd be making more.
Yeah.
I wanted to make his own movie.
I want to see him do an episode of Law and Order or CSI. You know what I mean?
I'd love to see it in that style.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. I feel like if he was going to do The Spirit, he should have made Will Eisner as The Spirit, not Frank Miller's The Spirit.
No, absolutely. That totally came through.
Although I like the really cartoony, Looney Toony bits they had in there.
Yeah.
Where they're fighting and he just hits him with crashes a toilet over his head.
No, for sure.
I thought that was really good. But again, apparently
sure.
he's hit gone very low. What was it? Holy Terror?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well,
I guess
on that, okay.
I just got one thing. If we're talking about crime and you want to see crime in different great genres, now this isn't a plug by any means,
of course.
But please pick up Hideous 2.
Don't actually name the actual issue that it's in.
Right.
Yeah, Hardware 2.
Yes.
Oh.
Hardware
by UysFaber, the company that we're all working for at Paradise Comics or other stores in Toronto.
Right.
And on that completely on-topic note, I think we're going to wrap that up for today. So thanks for listening. I hope you'll join us again when we will talk about, I don't really know what, but chances are Sherlock will probably come up.
And if we missed out on any crime movies, stories, whatever, what happened, just
blame DK, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely let us know. The blog entry that this will be attached to definitely has a comments option, or talk to us on Twitter. Let us know what you think or what we got horribly wrong.
You can say shitty things to us on Facebook or Twitter. So
yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next time.